Hey, welcome to the first Ragic office hours of 2022. All right. Yeah, doesn't look like there's a lot of questions for today, so we'll go through this. So this may be a quick Ragic office hour session. All right. When I'm dealing with time series data, say monthly, how can I have a field that calculates the difference between this month and previous month? Huh. Okay, yeah, I think we got asked about this quite a few times, but right now, right now we don't really have a very good way to deal with this because for Ragic formulas we're usually referencing data data fields on the same record. But if you're referencing data from a previous record, then that's no, not on this record, then it's a little bit more difficult. One way to work around this is to put all these time series data in a subtable. So I haven't really done this before, so let's take a look at our formulas for subtables and see if we have something that can help us out with this kind of um, time series data comparing the values between this and the last month. Yeah, that's that this is how usually how we work through problems, that we can read through some of our documents and see if we can get some good ideas and inspiration from how to solve this. So formulas, values in subtables. So because you're referencing the the last the last record, the previous record on the subtable. So let's see. Um, First, last. We use this quite a bit for like values on the subtable, but yeah, we don't have a previous subtable row. Subtable. Previous row, previous value. Okay, so we might be able to do something with this. Let's try this in our session. We don't have a lot of questions for today, so why don't we just you know test this out and see if we can make something happen with time series. Time series. Let's say we have like dates. Okay, so for example, if we're working with what kind of time series data, like the the amount of money that this agent receive per day. Okay, so let's say agent name, agent number, and like for example is which month this is for. And so on the subtable we can have the date of each record and the amount that this agent receives, the money that this agent receives each day. Okay, so then this way we can have we can create a new field to calculate the difference between this date and the last date. Okay, so difference. All right, so this should be these both should be monetary field. All right. Okay, so let's see if we can make something happen here. And so the difference would be, I've never used this formula before, so let's give it a try. So difference would be for this row to and minus the value of the previous row. So that would be B5, referencing B5, and minus previous row's C5. Okay. Yeah, that's should not be a real circular reference. So let's say the agent name is Jeff. Oh, I forgot to make it a numeric field, but that's fine. So we can have like for 3 days, and amount is 100. So there's no previous month for this, and let's say 200, 300. Doesn't seem to be working right away, but I'll need to find out why. So B5, oh, so it's removed. C5. It's a little bit weird. Previous row. The sum of values in this row and the previous row. Oh, okay. So it should probably means that oh, okay. I think this is my bad. So this should be B5 minus previous row B5. Yeah, so because we're not referencing the difference, we're referencing the amounts. So this amount minus this amount. Yeah, my mistake. Okay. Yeah, this looks a lot better, although still not what I have in mind. This is 100, so the difference between this and the previous row is 0, 200. So this is minus 100. Minus 300. Okay, so oops, let's save this. Let's take a look at this and check again. So it's previous row B5 minus previous row. But notice on the document it says the sum of the values in this row and previous row in your subtable. So let's test this out a little bit more. Let's just see what the previous row means. Okay? Okay, so this basically just means that this is the total of this, and this is this total. Okay, so if I use the previous row to subtract this, it should only refer to the last row. Okay. So to do this, it still feels like we're almost there. So, okay. So the difference would be, so this is the previous row, the total. So if I minus this row, that would be the total of all previous rows. Oh, okay. So this is, yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking. So if you're doing a running balance, so it's already a running balance right here. So let's just create a new one, like Jeff2. So the amount, if it's like 20, 30, 80. So this is already the running balance here. So what you're seeing here is already the running balance. So you can do a running balance simply with a previous row formula like that. Okay, so add 90 would be like this, add 3, add 100. So this is the running balance. This is already the running balance. The difference would be the amount that you just added, but we don't really need to calculate the difference. We just need to calculate this is already the running balance. Yeah, sorry, I mentioned that I haven't done this kind of formula, running balance formula for a while, so yeah, I kind of made it all complex. So yeah, you just previous row and it will be the running balance of this. Yeah. The naming is a little bit confusing. Maybe it's the we should probably just call it a running balance, so that because it's actually really easy to use. You just call a previous row formula to get a running balance of the number up to this row. All right. Here we go. So you can use a previous row formula to get a running balance up to the current up to each subtable row. Okay. Yeah, generally we name our formula names after how Excel named these, but I'm not sure this came from Excel, but I do think that maybe we could name this formula a little bit better so that it's not confusing, like also for me on the first try. But still, actually, it's really easy to use. Just it will return the running balance. Okay. Convert record button to run automatically once saved. Can you add a function to run automatically once the record is saved? I know this is possible with update value on another sheet, but it's not an option for convert record button. Okay. Yeah, this is technically this is not really hard to do, but um, we're not really sure what the usage case for this is here. So we're not really creating every possible feature, every feature possible, but of all the features, there's always a common use case behind this. So we're not sure in what case that the user will want to have convert record button to be triggered each time a record is saved. I could kind of imagine that, if it's executed the first time it's saved, like when you create a new record and you create another, and you convert it into another record. But the question would be, and when it will cause some problem when you save the record again. So if you made some mistake on your data entry the first time, it creates a record. But if I made a mistake, I edit again, it will create another record. If you edit it 10 times, it's going to create 10 records. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to design this kind of feature. And it's also hard to just design it so that the convert record button only triggers on the first one, because in the real world, usually it's hard to make sure that you got the all the values, the record completely right on the first try. Most of the time it takes one or two edits. So this is this is kind of where the problem would be if you trigger convert record automatically. So yeah, first of all we'll need some usage scenarios where this is needed. The behavior will be tricky when the triggering record is modified a few times and multiple new records will be created from convert record action. Yeah, this is the second one is kind of the problem why we haven't designed something like this. Yeah, and also we just not really sure in what use case, in what business case that this is really required. Yeah, and feel free to get back to us on the usage scenarios, and maybe we can talk about this on our next office hour. Okay, link and load not updating after an import. Yeah, by default, link and load is not triggered after an import. There's an advanced configuration. There's a setting that you need to click for it to be triggered. So let's take a look at the document. Link and for import. Import. Import policy. Yeah, right here. So you need to choose in advanced setting that you need to check that execute link and load in advanced settings. So also if you want to load default values, if you want to recalculate formulas, if you want to do all sorts of other things, you will need to check it under advanced. So, if you don't check those by default, it's gonna do a very bare bone import that it doesn't really trigger much other stuff. Yeah, because when you're doing import, usually you will want to do it faster, and by default we try to have it import as fast as possible, because a lot of times you'll have a lot of data to import. By default, import does not trigger link and load. You will need to check link and load. Check box in the advanced setting during import. All right, here we go. Check this one. Execute link and load. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is more related to our team, our company. Do you have any plans to become ISO 27001 or SOC 2 certified or any other information security certification for your company's operation? Yeah, we have done some survey around the ISO 27001 certification, and yeah, we are considering getting that certification. So, and right now, most of our operations we follow those procedures, but we haven't really got any auditors and come in and do the audit because yeah, we're still a lot very much focused on the product right now, and we don't really have a big operations team running our services. So most of our team, they are, support, customer support, and developers. They don't really touch the data or touch the operation. So right now it's not a big team, so the not a lot of you not a lot of our staff will have the access right to touch your data, but we do have some plans to get these certifications so that, as our team grow, and all the people who handles the data will need this kind of certification to make sure that they follow the proper procedures. Yeah. And we'll also look into the SOC certifications. Yeah, to my knowledge, the ISO certification is a bit easier and not as costly to get an auditor to come in and do the auditing. But SOC2 certification, in my memory, I think it's quite a bit more costly. Yeah, we're still not a very big company, so we have like 30 staff, but we try very hard to concentrate most of our energy and resources on making the product better and more robust, and we have quite a bit of confidence on our information security, but yeah, we don't have this kind of certification yet. So, and we do get asked about this quite a bit. So yeah, we do have some plans to get this certification, get our company audited if it makes sense in the near future. Hey, no problem. Okay, so possible to limit the number of entries created on a sheet. Let's say you have a registration form. You only allow the first 100 people who completes the form to join an event. Will that be possible on Ragic? Okay. My first thought is that this is definitely possible if we use workflow scripts. So we can have the workflow scripts calculate how many records has been created on that sheet and decide if we should block the user from saving that record. So it's definitely possible with workflow scripts, and it's fairly straightforward if you know how to write JavaScript. But let me think if this is possible without writing any script. So with this kind of pre-workflow script, it's not very hard to do this. You could just calculate the number of records. Yeah. Straight forward if you can write JavaScript workflow script. This can be done with pre-workflow. All right. So now, let me think if it's possible to do this without workflow scripts. Okay, so if I want to do that, I would probably need to calculate the number of records created with a formula. Yeah, this brings us back to the first question of whether we can get some information on the sheet on other records with a formula. But yeah, off the top of my head, I would say no. So we would probably need to, yeah, you would still probably need to write pre-workflow scripts. Yeah, and if you do any type of validation, this is only on formatting, so you still need to kind of tell if there are more records created than you allow with a formula for you to check it with validation. So that probably won't work. Hmm. Yeah. Um, yeah, I would say yes. This currently writing scripts is the only way to go for this kind of check. Yeah. And okay, yeah, if you don't know how to write this kind of script, and you could, I think it would be a good idea to kind of let our support staff know. And of course, we can't promise you that, for any type of script that you ask our support staff, we can write it for you. But sometimes when we see some common types of scripts for, because like for this kind of script to, to a pre-workflow to limit the number of users, limit the number of records on a sheet. This is kind of a common use case. So what we're planning for this year is that we're first doing a revamp on our workflow script documentations, and we're also trying to to try out something new, because a lot of users has asked us that, could you give us more samples? Could you give us more workflow script templates on the document? So yeah, we started. So then we started working on the templates, the samples for the document, and then it came to us that hmm, because this is Ragic, we have the information on what fields that you have on your sheet. So what we could kind of do is that we're planning a type of code generation, pre-workflow script, post-workflow script, auto generation. So because we know that there are maybe like 5 or 6 major types of workflow script that you would like to write, and you could just choose a type of workflow script that you would like to write, like select a few fields that you would like to reference in the workflow, and then we could automatically generate the workflow script for you. And you could just kind of change the parameters a bit to make it your own workflow scripts. Because when most people are writing these scripts, they do copy paste anyway. So we do think, by knowing what fields that you have on your sheet, we could have a pretty good idea of what kind of script that we could auto-generate for you to get like 90 or 95% of the workflow script work finished for you before you start editing the script. So this is kind of the approach that we have in mind in 2022, so that half of it is the template code is auto-generated for you already on the interface, and you just follow some of the instructions on the document to make the right adjustments to the scripts to make it really work, so that non-developers can kind of just make small edits to the script to create working scripts for their sheets. Yeah, it's sort of like our template library. You install a template and just add a few fields that you need or make the small adjustments. We do believe that we could do the same thing with workflow scripts. So we just put in all the fields that are on your sheet and generate a template for you to try out. So you don't have to write all the code from scratch. Most people can edit scripts, but it's just a lot harder to write scripts from scratch. So also that could be one of the reasons that why so many people has asked our support staff that if we can provide more samples, because we understand that people don't want to start from scratch. They like to make changes of a really robust make changes to a working sample. They'll have a sample that they already know is working, and they can just tweak it to make it work their way. So we will be planning adding auto-generated workflow script functions, and this could be a good example of workflow script that we can generate in the future. All right. Yeah, and Alex, if you still need some help, writing this script, you can just use the need help link at the top right and mention that Jeff from the office hour has offered some help writing this script, and we should be able to write the template script for you, and it could also work as the auto-generate template in the future. All right. Yeah, and also if any one of you listening to the office hour, if you have some scripts that you would like to write, and if you believe that this is a very common use case, like this one, this I would believe is a very common use case, like limiting the number of entries created on the sheet, and because we do think we can see a lot of use cases for this type of script. So if you have some common use cases for workflow script, feel free to let us know, and we'll see if we can add them to our auto workflow generate program in the near future. All right. Okay, yeah, so I guess this is it for our first Ragic Office Hour webinar of the year. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and find it helpful. So if you have any other questions, and when you're developing your Ragic applications, if you have some ideas, suggestions, questions, or need some pointers, feel free to use the Ragic Office Hour question sheet to ask us the questions, and we will answer your question on the next office hour webinar. Yeah, so our webinar time will be switching between 3 different time zones. So so sometimes you might not be able to make it to the webinar because the time zone differences. So, but we'll always put the webinar recordings up on our YouTube channel. So you can still feel free to ask your questions right away. And after the webinar session, you could just go to our YouTube channel and check out my answer. Yeah, so yeah, thank you again for coming in to listening to our latest office hour webinar, and I'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. All right. Thank you. Goodbye.